Greetings, and welcome to another video. Today, we have episode 2 of my series, Road to the Black Belt, the series where I, a karate brown belt, am going to showcase it through in this documentation all of the training and preparations I will be doing to get towards the rank of black belt. So, in the previous video, I announced this and showed you guys a general training session that I will do at home. But today, well, you need to know know all the stuff that's going to be going into the future videos. So I have to talk about the parameters and what exactly I need to have done in order to succeed. Sorry, I had to move me off my desk. So to start this out, let's talk parameters. For start, actually no. Let's look at my previous test that I had to do for this. I don't know what my results were. I don't know how well I did on any of the tests. I don't even really know if I failed any of them, but they were less important than the ones I succeeded or excelled at. So I don't really have much of a baseline on what I had to do. So I'm just going to have to boost everything as much as I can in preparation for this. So to begin, the parameters, like I mentioned. First one, the technical prowess. Should come as no surprise, will probably be one of the main concerns. This is the technical prowess of almost every technique. Generally speaking, they ignore quite a few techniques into it and just look at a handful of the basics, as well as my application of the self-defense curriculum, or grab arts as they generally call it, which is basically just if I get grabbed in different positions, techniques that I can apply, to get into a better position, is generally how I describe it. There's a handful of the basic techniques, those and combinations. Now, in my brown belt test, I was specifically told that I needed to come up with 5 combinations on the spot, and then drill them up and down the floor. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, I didn't do too particularly well in the combination area just because my instructor didn't like the combinations that I gave. Now, moving forward from there, there's the major thing that I believe they'll be worried about is my katas. Now, for those of you who don't know what kata is basically just the translation of kata in English means forms. So, it's basically just a preset sequence of techniques that you just do repetitions of. The entire point of kata was originally solo practice, but as karate developed, kata more or less just became one of the standard metrics of this is what shows how good you are at karate, or anything like that. And that is generally how it is in my school too. So looking through the katas, I know 10 of the 26 in Shotokan. Oh, by the way, I should probably say my style of karate is Shotokan karate. We're not completely traditional. It's unorthodox. The instructors kind of just pick and choose aspects that they like. Some things they take out, some things they put in from other stuff that they see. It's fairly inconsistent. But so Of the 26 katas in Shotokan, I know 10. There are 9 that are technically mandatory for the black belt test. I just happened to learn one before I was a black belt. There we got 3 Taikyoku katas. Taikyoku means first cause. These are children's katas, where the only purpose for these katas, as far as I can find any historical reference for, is to just teach beginners, specifically children, how to do katas. They're the easiest ones. So easy that I actually technically didn't even learn 2 of them. I learned the first one when I started about 9 years ago. And then about 2 or 3 years later, they just put me into the next section of katas, and didn't tell me there were other Taikyoku katas until a couple years later, and then I was kind of just expected to know them at that point. The only real thing that changes with these katas is what block you throw at them. Because the combination's basically just, while moving in an I form, turn, leg block, step up into a straight punch, and then do it to the other side, turn left with a low block, and then 3 straight punches while stepping forward. And then you just do that exact thing to the other side. The only thing that changes is in the second Taikyoku kata, Taikyoku Nidon, you do a chest block and a back stance rather than a low block and a front stance. And in the third one, Taikyoku Sandan, you do a head block in a front stance instead of a low block. Those are those katas I'm not worried about, except for Taikyoku Nidon, which screws with my shoulders because we're supposed to do a chest block from a back stance like this. We're expected to have our arm be able to go past our shoulder with this, but I have a genetic disorder, often referred to as hypermobility, which, well, I mean, hypermobility is the technical term. It's often referred to as being double jointed, which can lead to being more flexible generally, but more often than not, it just puts you at higher risk of hyperextension and dislocation of things. Okay, then of course there's the Heian katas, which are the major ones. There are 5 of them, which are and are going to be the main concern. There's Heian Shodan, which is fairly easy. It's very reminiscent of the Taikyoku katas, with some minor movements changed. And there's Heian Nidon. This one's actually hard for me because at one point there's a rapid shift between standing in the front stance to Sanshin, which has your feet shift from this to this, and then immediately throwing a front kick and moving back to front stance, which is generally pretty hard on my ankles. So I've avoided practicing it too much over the years. But chances are I will need to do it in the test. Then the third Heian kata, I'm good at. Very good. Heian Sandan is one of the few that I do regularly practice. It's just a grappling kata, and the movements are quite simple. It's the easiest of the 3. And then there's Heian Yodan, which is actually my favorite kata, at least for sentimental reasons. It's a pretty easy one in terms of the movements required, so I'm not too worried about that. In Heian Godon, I don't practice much, but I remember it well. And doesn't require too much movement. Okay, camera cut out there. Alright, so then where was I at the end of that? Alright, okay, so now Heian Godon isn't too big of a concern. And the 10th kata, well, wait, no, 9th kata I need to know. Well, it's Basai Dai, technically the only one required for my rank. It's black belt kata, and as such, the one you're supposed to learn for this test specifically. But they deemed it, there's a whole thing about it was, me and the other people who will be, testing for black, later on, that we were good enough at that kata that it was okay to move to the next one. Entire thing there. So, however, I have been forewarned by one of the advanced students that there is a possibility that I will have to, yeah, perform the 10th kata, yeah, for that on the test since they know that I'm familiar with it. That kata being Teki Shodan, or as it's called in the Okinawan, Naihanshin Shodan. And interestingly enough, this is probably this is probably my favorite kata for practice because it's an entirely body mechanics focused kata, and as such, it's not only is it easy to practice, yet it's one that I'm naturally going to be good at since I focus on the body mechanics. So I will have to likely have to practice all 10. I can likely give some skip out on the Taikyoku katas though, yeah, and just leave it at 7, simply because the Taikyoku katas are easy. Now, moving on from the technical portion, well, mentioning that I need to do, I mentioned I need to do work on, yeah, on individual technique, combinations, the self-defense curriculum, and katas. That's the end of the technical talk. Now let's talk about physicality. That is something that I am worried about, yeah, improving for this. For 3 reasons. Reason 1, I actually almost didn't make it through the physical test for, yeah, my brown belt. Yeah, because I was just getting over the flu from a week prior to the test. So I physically was having trouble doing much of anything, let alone doing a test that was meant to be physically taxing. So, while I don't intend on getting the flu, I do know that chances are it'll be physically much harder with the black belt test than the brown belt test was. So, I should take into account that even if I would have had no problems with the brown belts test physically, I should consider it to be just as hard because it's supposed to push me to my limits. And I know it can because that advanced student I talked about previously, well, when she took the test, I talked to her the next day and, well, she was still recovering. So I need to ensure that I'm in physical condition to be able to handle the test. Now the second aspect that I need to be worried about is that I know there is going to be a directly physical aspect to the test. Because the one thing I heard about this test in determinant of how hard it was that the previous person that I heard who took the test had to do push-ups and 100 sit-ups. Now, for me, that doesn't sound too hard, especially if I'm allowed to break it up into sets. But admittedly, they know that I am capable of doing a lot more than that. So, I'm not sure if it's a matter of doing that is what you need as a minimum to get to the rank, or if it's they're gonna scale it to person. So naturally, I'm going to need to start start taking that into mind with my training. And the third one on this is technically not even a necessary thing to think about. It used to be a thing in my school to where in order to get your black belt, at least with the past generations, you had to be able to break a 2x4. It's not technically a requirement anymore, but I want to live up to the standards of the old instructors. And plus, previous person in our school was who came up with the same stuff as before he left, did actually break the 2x4. So I at least want to be able to do it. I'm not sure what my power what my power output is at the moment, but I do intend on increasing it enough to where I should be able to break the 2x4 going eventually. Hopefully by the time I get to my black belt. So that's the concerns for the physicality side of things. Now, for the third one, we actually have an interesting bit here because I'm not sure how many people would this. I need to ensure that my history and my understanding of the components of karate is up to the higher levels for this, because there are parts of the test that focus on that, at least in my school. Every belt test has a written portion. So much so, and I actually failed. The only time on any belt test was my yellow belt. I failed the written portion. The first time I took that test. I took the test again the next year and got it though. So going forward, every single test that I knew was coming, I studied beforehand. But there goes even more with this, because on the brown belt test, we were also told to write an essay. I think I did pretty good on the essay. I don't actually know though, because I didn't get my results. Or they didn't give us the grades for it. You don't really get results on an essay, you get grades. But I also didn't get the grade on my written test. So I need to appropriately study for the written test, but also I need to be ready for whatever essay I end up having to write. The essay I wrote for my brown belt was just as they put it, pick a weapon and write an essay about it. I think the implication was that it had to be a traditional martial arts weapon. I wrote mine on the Eku, and there was a bit of a worry because one of the other students overheard me and decided to do it on the same weapon, so they thought we were copying each other. But take one look at the verbiage of verbiage, grammar, and vocabulary. It gave a very clear difference. That, and also mine was almost 500 words longer. So as a result, I know there is a very high likelihood that I will have to write an essay. However, can't exactly prepare all that well for an essay, except for just getting better at writing. Which I already do, since I am a writer and am working on getting my first book published. Keep an eye out for that. And all that. But back on subject, of course. So I need to be good enough with the history, the verbiage, the components of karate, all that for a written test. And then I need to be ready for an essay. That's kind of it for that portion of things. But the fourth aspect of moving forward might be the most tedious. In order to in my school, in order to get your black belt, you need to start teaching. As a brown belt, they will choose at random intervals, seemingly, when they want you to be the one to teach the class. And when you do teach the class, it's counted up. In order to get to your black belt, you need a certain amount of teaching time. Although I can't really tell you how much is required, because it's kind of a thing where everyone seems to forget. Forget when it comes up. Sometimes it's said to be 1,000 hours. Some people say it's 1,400. I'm generally say at least 1,000 hours because that's true. If it is 1,400, that is at least 1,000. So I need to. The goal here is to make it so that once you get to the you are getting to the instructor rank with teaching experience because they don't want you to start teaching with and have absolutely no clue what you're doing, which I do think makes sense. I mean, I remember when I was on the wrestling team in high school, there was an entire thing where this one kid who was supposedly on the state level who was told to teach me how to do a double leg because it was a thing where it was splitting up into pairs and then we're teaching the double leg and then all that. He was but he was really bad at teaching it, and as such I didn't really understand what to do with how to do the double leg until the coach was circling around and corrected him on how to show me how to do the double leg. So yeah, makes sense. You gotta have some understanding of what you're doing. But as such, I need to understand, plan ahead, and get better at the all these concepts of teaching. The primary one being planning ahead how to teach. So yeah, expect some videos on figuring out lesson plans in the future as well as figuring out whether or not thing. Uh, yeah, sorry. As well as figuring out how well those lesson plans would fit into the class schedule because generally speaking, the class lasts an hour and a half. And depending on who's running, the class, the first 10 to 30 minutes of that might just be taken up with calisthenics. Now, I do have plans for changing the class's calisthenics though when I teach. So that will also probably get a video unto itself. That being said, in con- in conclusion of all of this, the primary things I will be focusing on in future videos of this series will be my training in the technical aspect and the physical aspect, as well as as well as studying. You won't just see me sitting down here staring at a book for an hour straight, but you might very well get um, I don't want to say lectures, but discussion videos about both the history and inner working talk about karate with my applied logic. It helps me remember. And of course, talk lesson plans, how I go about planning the lesson plans, and figuring out the inner workings of how that would go, the time requirements, and even breakdowns of segments of the classes that I have planned, which very well might give you insights into the technical inner workings of my personal karate, because it's not just we don't all just belong to one style and that's the exact way we do it. We all make our own as we go by. So, thank you all very much for watching. If there's any particular thing you think I'm missing here as I'm talking about it, let me know in the comments because I would like to. Because if there's any aspect of this that I'm missing, I would like to know partially so I can add it into my training, but also so that I can, document that part of their training. So, and of course, if you have anyone who you think might benefit from this, share it with them. Or if you didn't like this video and you have someone that you really want to ruin their day, share the video with them. I can always use more views. And if you want to be notified when future episodes of this come out, subscribe, hit the bell icon, blah blah blah, all the standard things you hear from all the YouTubers. Thank you all very much for watching. This is Randoman, signing off.